Hi guys, in this video I'm going to be answering a question that someone wrote to me on FetLife. I would have responded in text to you, but honestly if I went on in text it would go on forever and ever and you'd probably get pretty bored. So I thought if I replied here at least, it would be more engaging and personal. So you basically asked me, you said I'm still very new to this lifestyle and you never really had things explained to you and you're wondering if I had any insight or advice for you. Yes, I can certainly give you some insight and advice. If you don't know much about BDSM, that's okay, everyone starts somewhere. I'm basically going to start from the beginning, and a lot of the stuff you will already know and will probably be experienced in, but it doesn't hurt, sometimes just to go back to the basics and relook at things. So we'll start with the big word here, which is BDSM. BDSM basically stands for bondage, D is for discipline, S is for sadism, and M is for masochism. So it's bondage, discipline, sadomasochism. Obviously, if we split this into two sections, we've got BD and SM. The bondage and discipline is fairly straightforward. When we look at bondage, we're talking about constricting the body. That could be with rope or cuffs or whatever. Bondage can even be included to being confined in a small space. Those are obviously bedroom games and things, but can extend into something that's more lifestyle. Discipline is actually a wide variety of things. It can involve punishment, so when you talk about getting whipped or flogged. Hello, Master.
Hello.
Oh yeah?
If I may.
Of course, you absolutely may.
So there's a funny thing about BDSM. It's not actually it's not actually just a simple acronym, right?
Yeah.
There is, as you say, bondage and discipline, sadomasochism, but there's also that middle DS stands for domination and submission.
Yes,
right?
you're absolutely
so
right.
Just to get that little
yeah,
piece
awesome.
of information.
Thank you. And there you have it. So yeah, so sadomasochism. Oh no, I was talking about discipline. So I was talking about punishment. That can include being whipped or being flogged or getting wax poured on you. And this can either be, the discipline can almost sometimes be as a reward for someone who's a masochist. Also, it can actually mean, in a traditional sense, discipline as in a punishment, so you're using this to correct a behaviour. Now, as my master just mentioned, there in the middle is this little secret thing, the DS, the dominance and submission, which I'm sure you're well already aware of. Somebody who's dominant will physically dominate the party, who will be the top, and the submissive is going to be the bottom. So usually the discipline or whatever is happening to the submissive, and the submissive is physically submitting to the dominant. And that doesn't always have to be a physical based thing. Like, you can have dominatrixes who are very small and are still being the dom of a very large man. So sometimes it's a mind game just as much as it is a physical game. And then the last part is the sadomasochism. Sadist or sadism is basically someone who derives pleasure from inflicting pain on another individual, or seeing someone in pain. And there are some very famous examples of sadists through history. The Marquis de Sade is actually where the word sado comes from his name, so we have him to thank for that. But I'm not exactly sure that he was into the safe, sane, consensual game. Even people like Vlad the Impaler were sadists. Again, not exactly a good example, but there are obviously good sadists as well as bad sadists, and very good masochists and bad masochists too. So masochist is someone who basically derives pleasure from having pain inflicted on them. So for example, if you would cut me and I were a masochist, I would actually enjoy that, and that would be a good experience for me. But again, even masochists have limits, and so you'll see varying degrees within that. Next, I'm going to talk about, I mentioned before, safe, sane, consensual. These are the golden words in BDSM. Safe, obviously, is fairly self-explanatory, but you want to be safe. Or in any situation you're in, it's got to be, it's your choice. That's where consensual comes into it, that you are choosing to be there, and that it's not beyond your personal limits. And the consensual, the last part of this, is that it's not against your will. If it's consensual, you personally are saying, I'm allowing this to happen to me, I'm okay with it. And you can be a little scared about it, or unsure, as long as you trust whoever is inflicting those things on you, but it has to be that you've said, I'm willing to do this. If someone has grabbed you and tied you up and forcing you to do terrible things you don't want to do, and it's not even asked you about it, that's not consensual, and it's not safe, nor is it sane. So yes, and the sane part obviously is that you're not, but everything you're doing is within some degree of sense, and I wouldn't exactly say that everybody I've met in the BDSM scene across the world has been sane, or that any of us are really sane, but it definitely is a part in there. You want to try. It could be enjoyable, that's true. That's true. So next I will talk about, again he was talking about DS, but let's talk about dominance and submissives, very different kinds of submissives, or subs for short. You get, a lot of people will say, I'm a slave, and when they say that, they're actually saying they are something separate from a submissive. The two things are actually completely different. A submissive is someone who is actively submitting to BDSM activities with a dominant party, or even other submissives in some cases, but the point of it is that they are choosing to be submissive. It can sometimes just be a bedroom game. They can still have like a high-powered job and a career, and maybe they don't want to even commit to a full-time relationship, but when they go out to the club, they just want to submit, and they enjoy that. Whereas in a slave, usually a slave is in a relationship with a master, someone who physically owns them and owns every single aspect of them. The slave is obviously not in the traditional sense. BDSM that you see today is not traditional slavery. It's got nothing to do with that. It's completely by choice, and I think it's really important to draw that line. With slaves, there are different kinds of slaves, even within that, and varying degrees of slavery. A lot of people, especially in the old guard BDSM, will discuss something called TPE, and that the TPE stands for Total Power Exchange, and that's basically where, let's say you have someone who owns you, you're giving them everything, like even to the point where maybe they have financial control, or if you have a job, the money is going to them, and they're micromanaging you to a point they're controlling every single aspect of your life. They really own you. They dictate what you wear, what you eat, when you go to bed, what kind of punishments you receive. You get like strict training regimens, and so anyway, the point is there's a lot of different types of things. So you can have a soft submissive, a hard submissive, and then light slavery, and then like the very hardcore slavery. So yeah, I hope that clarifies a little bit for you. When starting off, I would say it's really important to note that if you go into the scene, there's going to be a lot of people who are like, wow, a young, hot, submissive girl, and everyone wants that. It's like gold dust. It just doesn't exist that often, unfortunately, and so a lot of people, a lot of men, when they see these submissive women, they will try to take advantage, and it's really important when you're out there and exploring that stuff, or getting messages, even on FetLife, that you have to be really on guard, and you have to look for specific signs. Like, you always trust your gut instinct. If you find a message from someone and it kind of creeps you out, or it goes against your limits, then it's important to realize that and not pursue it and just nip it in the bud, because usually your gut instincts are correct. Even if you do want to go and play fun submissive things, it's always important to be safe first. Honestly, I think in your particular position, there's a lot of books you can read. I would actually suggest, I always suggest this, to watch the movie called The Secretary. I did this for a friend just recently. It's a really good movie, and if you don't know anything about it and you just want to learn, The Secretary is a really good place to start. So anyway, I hope some of that stuff helps you out if you're interested in pet play. That's basically a niche, a sub line within BDSM, because there are many different kinds of BDSM, where you're basically not really a slave and you're not really submissive, but you're actually a pet, and you would act like a pet. You walk around on all fours, you have a collar with the things so you don't get lost if your address is there, and you get trained by your owner like you would a pet.